so back in the studio again, standing quite far back to get the full board in the shot, the 14-foot by 25 inflatable race board from Shark SUPs. So a month or so back we reviewed Shark SUP's surfing board, so now we're looking at their full-on performance race board. So as we said, it's 14 foot long, 25 wide, 6 inches thick. The weight of the board is 13 kilograms and it retails in a package with a basic aluminium paddle at $1,199, which is about £950. So it definitely sits at the cheaper end price point as far as race iSUPs are concerned, but there is a few things on this board that you do not even see on the more expensive race SUPs. As with all race boards, this board comes with a single US box fin, and the materials on this board is the same as the other Shark SUP boards, with an internal core of drop stitch, and with their fusion technology that gives you 2 layers of outer PVC on the top and bottom, 3 layers on the rail, but also this one has got an extra PVC band going across, up and down the center of the board, giving it that extra rigidity. And the board's just designed for pretty much the outline racer that wants a bit more performance, especially because of the 25 wide. So moving on to the SUP board impressions then, let's go over the standard stuff that most iSUP race SUPs have. Obviously they've got a carry handle, some of them have got bungees in the front there, nice large EVA deck pad, and the board template, generally a nice flat bottom to the board and a very thin outline throughout the board, so it makes it as fast as possible. Similar to many other iSUPs you see in the market, the template isn't something you haven't seen so much before. But there is a few things on this board that definitely no iSUP we have tested has them both. One thing it has, which I have said in several reviews on other iSUP companies that it needs, and that is the tail kicker at the back of the board. Nice and big tail kicker so you can really feel where your back foot is when you're going into those step back turns, which is especially needed on boards of 14 and 12.6 long, because there is more board to walk back to get to the tail, so you can get the nose up and do a faster buoy or pivot turn. You need to know where your back foot is. It's a long board, there's a lot of steps, so you need to have that bump to feel your foot. An excellent move there, and it's nice and big and chunky, and I think there's another brand, I think Starboard have got one on their board, but as far as other sort of performance race iSUPs out there, there is no other deck pad that we are aware of. Another massive thing that we have not tested on any other board is the nose of this board. This board comes with a PVC molded displacement nose that you would find on a hard board sort of shape, but put onto the front of an iSUP. When we first unrolled it, we didn't know what we were going to have. We didn't know it was on there, and we were like, oh my word, how's that going to look when it's pumped up? And to be honest, it looks pretty good when it's pumped up, and as you can see with the camera there, from that angle, the profile of it, it really does show that wave piercing characteristics. But we'll go on to more of the performance of that on the water in a minute. When you turn the board over again, you can see the extra materials that have gone into the board, which is where that PVC band going right down from nose to tail. Generally, the board is pretty stiff. As far as our deflection test is concerned, we put it through. This is recommended to 18 psi, so it's pumped up to 18 psi, and we put it through our deflection test, which is where we put it on a gap of 1.5 meters apart and a weight of 75 kilograms in the middle, and it dropped 14 millimeters. So very, very good deflection test for this board. 14 millimeters is very good. Moving towards the back of the board, you've got your single US fin box, and then it comes with a pretty basic but adequate plastic sort of US box fin. So obviously this is a package board. A lot more iSUP brands are going towards package boards now, so you can get everything together in one job lot, which is really nice. Comes with a coiled leash, which we've tested this before. Really nice coiled leash. It's pretty chunky actually and quite heavy duty, and it actually is a good size for the board. The pump itself is the same as the other ones they've got on the market. It's a two-way sort of double action pump that you can change to pump on the upstroke and the downstroke, or just on the downstroke to make it easier. Not the biggest of pumps for this board, but in time it does pump the board up fine. The pump is easily pumps 18 psi. In fact, I think they reckon that pump will up to take 25 psi, so the pump is adequate in pressure range. The paddle it comes with the package is a simple but pretty good aluminium 3-piece paddle. We tested it in the surf review of the surfboard we did. Pretty nice secure locking system, and what we noted with the last one was how good the connection is there, and there's not much play at all. As far as racing concerned, you're probably not going to want to have to paddle with this paddle. This is a general basic, get somebody into paddleboarding paddle. Which is why Shark SUP offer their customers that they can upgrade to a carbon paddle. So they sent us this carbon paddle to have a go of, which is the paddle that we use when we were riding the board. So it's a 3-piece carbon paddle, which again, like the aluminium one, a really nice connection, no movement or wobble there. Easy push pin system to pull out. The blade itself is a little bit bigger than you would find on most real performance expensive paddles. Most performance expensive paddles are going a little bit thinner and longer, but to be honest, the blade is absolutely fine and it does work well. It will suit a slightly bigger paddler, maybe 75 kilograms and upwards. The smaller paddlers, generally I would sort of stick for a smaller blade size. As far as the paddle goes, if you're going to get it as an add-on, definitely the carbon paddle is a nice sort of all-round paddle, nice and lightweight, well made and pretty stiff as well. I think it's good that Shark SUP don't supply it just with the carbon paddle, because a lot of you guys out there, you might be wanting to get an iSUP race board. You've probably already got a carbon paddle, you've probably already got a better paddle, so it gives you the option that keeps the price down by not supplying it with that. They've got a new bag out now, which is very similar to their last bag, as in it's nice and light, hasn't got any wheels, which personally, as I said before, I'm a real believer in that, because it keeps the bag nice and light, so you know you're carrying the board weight and not really the bag weight on your back. The materials on this bag and the build quality on this bag is better than the bag before. Nice big zip so you can get your pumps in at the front, easy access to the boards, and it comes with a comfortable but fairly basic backpack shoulder strap there. So performance and paddling on the water. When you first jump on this board, the first thing you will notice is it is a little bit tippy, as with all the other 25 wide iSUP race boards are. Compared to hard sort of race boards, they generally are, we feel they've got a little bit more tip to them from rail to rail sort of balance. And that's because a hard board generally has a harder rail around the sides here, which will give you a little bit more grip or a bit more resistance to push you up and down in the water. So that is to be expected of a board of this wide in an inflatable board. The actual board itself, when you get going and you can trim your feet forward and back, it has a large amount of glide. I mean an excessively large amount of glide, and it does feel very nice to paddle. Very smooth, very easy to paddle in a straight line due to that sort of US box quite far back on the board there and the nice drawn out tail. And you can happily have a fast paddle pace of about 5 miles an hour on the board and have a nice sprint pace of just under 7 miles an hour. The nose is a totally new experience for us. We're very used to watching and trimming the boards forwards with hard boards, getting the displacement noses in the water, using the full length of the board. But with iSUPs, that's generally something you steer away from because of the nose of the board isn't that hydrodynamic usually, and it usually ends up dragging. With this board, it was really interesting to trim your feet forward and back to get that nose just in the water, and we did feel that the nose, you can actually see the water wrapping around the nose like you would see on a performance hard board. As far as paddling into chop over little bumps, catching little waves on boats and stuff like that, the nose of the board really did help a lot of those situations. Whether it's a placebo effect that this nose on the board makes the board feel faster and easier to use, I don't know, but definitely as far as punching into chop and in through choppy waters and getting water over the nose, that nose is definitely better than a fatter, rounded iSUP nose that you would find on other sort of performance-based iSUPs. As with a lot of good performance iSUPs now, the board on the water does feel really stiff and rigid. Looking at the back of the board, it's slightly wider than some other race performance boards in the market. We'll go over more of those in the SUPboarder Pro video, but the extra width there makes it a lot easier to do the step back turns because of that width. Bear in mind, it's still pretty tricky. It's still a very narrow board. You're still looking at sort of 23 wide back here. So when you are on your step back turns, you have got to be a little bit on it with your balance to get the most out of those sort of turns. But this board really is designed for that flat water, long distance racing or high performance cruising, let's say. Definitely going to suit the person who is probably a little bit lighter. It would take the volume of a sort of 95 kilo person, but because of the width, definitely going to suit somebody around 85 to 65 kilograms in weight. Negatives or downsides to the Shark SUP Speed 14 foot. The pump it comes with is adequate and it pumps the board up to the pressure completely fine, but it does take quite a long time to do it. It's a smaller diameter pump, it is two-way, but there's a lot of air to get in this board. It's not a massive negative, but it's something to be aware of if you're trying to get on the water in under 2 minutes. Value for money, it is a lot of board for its money, and it is cheaper than the other high performance boards that are on the market today, and it definitely can sit up there with those guys as far as performance is concerned. So it is a complete value for money board. So the overall SUPboarder verdict, well, we first thought Shark SUPs were just a budget, cheaper end iSUP brand, which they are, but to be honest, they're putting a lot of work into their boards, and this board can stand up next to any high performance, way more expensive iSUP racing SUP on the market. We're going to give it 4.5 stars out of 5 because the pump, bag and fin is a little bit more basic than some other performance high-end paddle boards on the market. But as far as the board itself is concerned, it's a very nice board to paddle that's going to put some very shocked reactions on people's faces as this generally budget brand paddles straight past some high performance race SUPs. Okay guys, there goes another SUPboarder review on the Shark SUP Speed 14x25. If you want to know more about this board and other boards we compare it to, remember check out SUPboarder Pro, which is where we dive into them and give you real hard facts about each brand off each other. Otherwise, subscribe to YouTube and we'll see you later, and check out SUPboardermag.com.